it's not a sprint to get to your first million or your first 100,000. It's more of a marathon. If you put the process in place to be able to get there, you will eventually get there. You just got to trust in the process.
Yeah.
This man is
a multi-million-dollar CEO.
And he's done it in months. Let's meet Mark Tilbury.
Young people, they're really impatient, and it's like they're just fast-tracking their way to earning as much money as possible, as fast as possible.
Yeah, overnight success for me is 5 to 10 years of hard slog, putting everything in place to look like an overnight success. Because they've taken those hits, they've taken those L's, and now they know how to fly.
I don't think some people are cut out for it.
It doesn't suit everyone. It might be that you're an entrepreneur and you can run a business. Fantastic. But
what was one of the failures that you experienced that taught you the most?
Oh, that's a good question, because it's a very, very hard one to answer.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to First Things First. We have a special guest today, Mark Tilbury. How are you doing?
Absolutely great. Well, how could it not be great? It's sunny Dubai. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I get to meet you at last, Mike. And it's been a little while. We've been trying to put this together for some time, but as you're based out here, a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Today's the day.
Today is the day. You're like one of the OGs in the game in terms of entrepreneurship, because you've been doing it for a long time, probably more than anybody else I've had on this podcast. So you've clearly got a lot of wisdom to share.
Well, I hope so. And I think the difference I have to a lot of people is the number of years that I've been sort of doing my own thing. So I would say probably from about 14 years old, I've been doing side hustles and various different businesses. And you learn as you go. And that's what it's all about. And you can't beat experience. When you've got experience, you're going to look something like this and not necessarily like yourself. It's age. And hopefully now I've got to the age that I can pass some of that information on to youngsters and help them on their journey.
Mm-hmm. At what age did you decide to start sharing that knowledge?
It's about 4 years ago that we actually started the YouTube channel. And it's primarily because I thought that a lot of the stuff I knew was now being taught in schools, which it isn't.
Yeah.
And that actually came as quite a shock to me. We were on a skiing trip and I was talking to about 4 guys around the table, younger guys, and 2 hours the conversation went on, almost like a podcast it was. And they were lapping up the information. I said to my son afterwards, I can't believe that they don't know this stuff. It's basic stuff. And he said, no, it's not taught. And my son was a videographer at the time. We made a decision that we would, try and do some YouTube and get this message out to the youngsters to help them out. And COVID hit and Curtis's work dried up. So we really pushed into the YouTube and it seemed to work. It seemed to hit a point. And I think there's a little bit of, I can't ask my parents because they won't talk about money. So I'll listen to what Mark has to say, and it seems a bit different. We also took the risk of going on to TikTok as well. Now, I went to China. I do a fair bit of business in China. And everyone's on this thing called TikTok. And I came back and I said to my son, you know what, we could complement this by being on TikTok. He said, I'm not having you dancing on TikTok.
I had the same
that's
thought
not,
as well.
That's not for you. And I said, no, let's just put the message on there and see how that goes. And, 7.4 million followers later, it's been a great success. And obviously that's fed some of our YouTube success as well. It's very good, very enjoyable. And it's nice to get the recognition from people when you meet them, and the fact that they're doing well because they've implemented some of the things that you've spoken about.
Yeah. Do you tend to notice there's a specific demographic that's following each of these platforms?
Well, it was very male orientated to start with. I mean, we were probably about 95% male audience, and now it's probably about 82% approximately. Yeah. So a female audience is starting to follow. It is a younger audience, that's for sure. So probably from 18 to 24 is our core audience. But again, the audience from 24 to 32, 34 is growing fast.
Yeah.
So that may be the biggest growing area at the moment.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed is that they tend to kind of grow with you, because when I started off, it was a lot of people who were similar age to me. And now they're kind of between 25 to 35 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my message really is for anyone, because I believe everyone can make better financial decisions, everyone, without a doubt. And if they think like a millionaire, then that's going to change their life for sure. And obviously, the younger you start, the better. But realistically, if you implement any of my tips at any age, you're going to turn your life around.
Yeah.
For sure. As long as you commit to it.
Yeah, even yesterday, just doing some prep, I was going through all the videos and I was like, oh, yeah. I think a lot of it's to do with the spending.
Yeah.
I look back at my, the past 10, 15 years, I definitely haven't been good at spending or saving.
Well, you've probably been good at spending a lot.
Yeah. But I feel as though a lot of that spending has been investment into myself and the personal brand and just getting myself into situations that have helped me out. And I've always had an abundance mindset where I've thought that, money is going to come my way. I'm not afraid to spend it. I feel like if I spend, some people can spend more and they can get it back in return.
Yeah. Well, you see a direct link from what you spend to what you earn. Mm-hmm. And if you can see that direct link, I can understand that. But you should always look at the safety net aspect as well, because obviously there is an abundance. People are led to believe there's a bucket of money and that's how much there is and you get a percentage of it and that's all you get because that's who you are. Mm-hmm. But there is an abundance of money out there. But quite often that abundance is only there for a short period of time for a particular person. So, you've got to keep investing in yourself for sure if you feel that money can be recouped. But also look at a safety net as well, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that you've put a safety net there, whether you use it or not. But if it's there, it's a good thing.
What do you feel as though most 18 to 25-year-olds are wasting their money on?
Everything. Yeah. I mean, it's always the next shiny thing, really, isn't it, with 18-year-olds? I think it's driven a lot by social media as well, because obviously look at their heroes on social media, such as yourself, and you are living a very nice lifestyle, and they feel that they've immediately got to live that lifestyle. And of course, the thing is, it's not a race. It's not a sprint to get to your first million or your first 100,000. It's more of a marathon. If you put the process in place to be able to get there, you will eventually get there. You just got to trust in the process.
Yeah. Do you think I'm flashy?
I think your business has to show a certain amount of flash, and that's part of the message, isn't it? And young guys have to have someone to aspire to, and I think you are someone that people aspire to. I don't want to sound the wrong way, but obviously you're very fit. You've got the right body. You've got the right lifestyle, and that's very aspirational.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think there is a disconnect with youngsters that they feel these aspirational people are too far away and they can't get there because they feel it's got to be instant.
Yeah.
And I've not met many people that have had overnight success. Yeah. Overnight success for me is, probably 5 to 10 years of hard slog, putting everything in place to look like an overnight success. And I think your story is probably similar to that as well. I mean, you can, tell us more about it.
If you go back to my very early videos, I was living in a terraced house in Newcastle, doing my meal prep every day for years. It was like quite a humble lifestyle for sure. And I think that was one thing that worked for me because everybody could relate to it.
Yeah.
But then the moment I moved here to Dubai and things started to get a little bit more flashy, I noticed there was a few people who were like, oh, I can't watch you anymore because I just can't relate to it. But I think one thing I've done is I don't overly do it in terms of flashing materialistic things. I don't think you'll ever see me do that. But in terms of quality of life and lifestyle and surroundings and environment, that's definitely on view.
Yeah, and you enjoy that lifestyle, which is great, and it is something to aspire to, the lifestyle that you want. And we were chatting before the podcast about my lifestyle and whether I could move out here, and really the Dubai lifestyle isn't really for me. I like it in bits and pieces. Second time here, I'm sure I'll come over again, maybe every couple of months, so it's a nice place to come to. But I enjoy my setup, and everyone's an individual, and you've got to look at what your life goals are to try and achieve those.
I'm curious to know what you like to spend your money on. Like, do you splash out on yourself?
Well, I like, as I say, holidays. I love skiing. I used to love motorsport to the extent that I was into motorsport. So I'd race in Fiesta Cup, Clio Cup on the touring car package. I decided to retire from that. But when I retired from it, I sponsored a young lad called Jake Hill, and that was 10 years ago. And he's been gradually going through the process of getting better and better as a racer. And last year he won the British Touring Car Championship. He's always raced as number 24, and Jake Hill won in 24. And that's really, really cool for me. So I'm almost racing through him now.
Yeah.
So I spend my money there. I spend my money on my hobbies. I race model aeroplanes, 200 mile an hour model aeroplanes, travel the world doing that and thoroughly enjoy it. We're in Abu Dhabi at the end of this year. So we go to the Formula One Grand Prix. Then we race our aircraft the following week. Quite a big event. So, there's lots of things I enjoy doing. Love golf.
Yeah.
As you know, golf can be expensive. I choose to be a member of a local club that's not that expensive, but very inclusive, nice to, enjoy the company of people. But that enables me then to go and play all around the world. So wherever I go, I take my clubs. I had a lovely game of golf with a friend of mine 2 days ago here.
John.
That's it. John Bukalugi.
Who won?
Well, he won, but there is a technicality to that win. But I played one game in 2 months because the weather back home is atrocious. I was going to play last weekend and the course was waterlogged.
Yeah.
You don't have that problem here.
No. But you do have a problem trying to play in the summertime, though.
Yeah, too hot, isn't it? Yeah, but that's when you come back home.
Yeah. So
what do you call home these days?
Home, I'd probably say home is here. This is the base for now.
Yeah.
Will it be the home forever? I don't know. It's... I think one thing I like about my lifestyle now is I can pick up and relocate if I choose to relocate, depending upon my mood or where is the place to be. So, yeah, as a single guy who's focusing on his career, I think this is a good place to be. Might not be the best place to be, because I know I'm here. It doesn't necessarily mean, everybody has to move to Dubai. I think there's actually already quite a lot of people here, and I don't want any more people here because the traffic's terrible.
Yeah.
So there's other hotspots around the world which... I think if you want to make it in business entrepreneurship, just go to where the money is and where the buzz is. In the summertime, base tends to be more so Europe.
Yeah.
But there's usually 3 months of travel.
That's fully understandable.
Kind of
just the sunshine makes a difference to your day. I mean, I used to do quite a lot of business in California, and just getting up in the morning, putting your sunglasses on when you go out. I mean, it's just automatic here, and it's automatic in California, and it just gives you that buzz in the morning. Yeah. And I think that's hard to beat, and you can't really get that at home. No. Because it's the odd day where you get that buzz, and you do feel it, but you don't get it all the time. Whereas certainly in these sunnier climates, you get that, I want to get out there, might even encourage me to do a bit of fitness as well.
That's the thing with me. I prefer to stay at a lower body fat percentage because it just helps for business, the videos, literally everything. But when I was living in the UK, when it was colder, it was so hard to stay leaner because you're always you've got 3 layers on. There's no real motivation for you to be leaner because nobody sees it.
And you want to eat a big stew or hot pot because you want to get some warmth into you and some carbs.
So I noticed for me and what I was doing, it wasn't the spot for me. And particularly when it comes to filming content, I like to shoot a lot of content outdoors, and for 6 months of the year in the UK, you can't really do that. So it was a bit problematic, but I enjoyed being in London. It's, especially before COVID, I feel like it was a better place.
We were struggling with our short videos, to be honest.
Yeah.
It gets so cold and dowdy that it's not great. So we went to New York and did a load of shorts just recently, but that was even colder. Yeah. But at least you had the iconic sort of backgrounds to film in front of. But when you come here, it definitely gives you that inspiration to just flick that switch and do so much more.
I think young people, if they're a little bit lost and they don't know what to do, I would always suggest to them just try maybe living somewhere else for a little bit. Now, this could be maybe against the advice which you give because it will come at a cost. You've got to pay to get yourself there. Then you're instead of maybe staying at home for a little bit and staying at the parents or whatever, you've got to go and get a place for yourself. And say for example, if you wanted to go and live in New York, that's going to cost you quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
But just having that taste of living in a different city, different environment, different people, it can be quite good for, getting some inspiration or figuring out what are the things you like and don't like. And when you are young, you really do have that freedom where you can kind of do whatever you want. You don't really have any responsibility.
I mean, a lot of that I do actually agree with. I think anytime you put yourself out your comfort zone, you're stretching yourself. And if you're stretching yourself, then you're turning yourself into a better person, more rounded, more worldly wise. And you get to meet a lot of people as well. And of course, as you're aware, your circle of friendship, that's the biggest gain that you can probably get, because let's face it, if you're surrounded by 5 losers that say, "Oh, I wouldn't invest, you're going to lose your money," then you're not going to invest. If you've got 5 better off people or wealthier people around you, say, "Yeah, we all invest, why don't you?" Well, you're going to invest. So that just surrounding yourself with more knowledgeable, wealthy people is the way to go. And also, I think there's a bit of a thing that you leave education and think, right, I'm done. I've learned. I know it all. I'm at the top of my game. There's nothing else I need to learn here. I'll now go and work and do my life. But I think you've got to flip that and learn something new pretty much every day.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're going to get left behind. And it's a bit like getting some antivirus software in your head at times, because you've got to get rid of all that outdated older knowledge and reboot everything and go again. And I look amongst some people I know, I wouldn't necessarily say in a friendship group, but some people I know, and have they learned anything since they were 30? I doubt it. And now they're struggling with internet banking. How can you struggle with internet banking? But they're struggling with it, struggling with everything, all the technology. They don't care about us. They're leaving us behind. They're shutting all the branches of the banks and this, that, and the other. But they haven't, done a reboot. They haven't tried to keep learning through their lives. And that's why it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Just keep working on the process, keep improving yourself. Exactly as you say with fitness, if you stop today, you're going to lose what you're known for, aren't you? You are going to lose it over time. Yeah. And it's exactly the same with knowledge. You've just got to keep reading, keep listening to people, surround yourself with people that know more than you. That's the best way of doing everything. Yeah. And even in running a business, except that you're not the best at running your business. You just happen to be the person running your business. You might be the figurehead for it or whatever it is. But every good business needs an incredible team behind them. And I have to say, I have an incredible team behind me, and I couldn't do what I do without them, and that is very, very important to remember. It's not all about the figurehead. How Elon Musk would never have got his rockets up into space if it was just Elon Musk making rockets. Yeah. He needs these youngsters that have all the new ideas and the new energy to be able to create that, to make that happen, to give them an environment to make that happen. That's what he's done, and that's really important.
Do you know what? I think he even has a team tweeting on his behalf, because I have no idea how he has the time to do all the things which he says he's doing.
Yeah, of course.
When you I want to know a little bit about the first few entrepreneurial ventures that you had when you were younger, because I don't want to go all the way back and you repeat your life story again. But to summarize, you left school when you were 16. Yeah,
I left school at 16, but as I say, I would say the journey started from about 14. I think we should all start talking about money.
Yeah.
From about that sort of age group. And as I say, there's barriers up against that, but you've got to break through those and, either watch good content or talk to your parents and find out what went wrong in their lives, because generally something's gone wrong in their lives. Yeah. And if you repeat the same process they went through, you're going to get the same.
Yeah.
And if you want to break that, you've got to do something a little bit different.
But it was a different time back then for you. I mean, there was no YouTube.
Yeah, totally different time. Yeah, no Amazon.
Yeah.
No internet.
Yeah.
You had to, once I started investing at 18, I had to phone up a stockbroker and buy, sell. It's a totally different world. That's why you have to keep rebooting all the time to keep up with the technology and the way things change. So, I always say try as many things as you can.
Yeah.
When you're young, from 14, get out there. If you can get a Saturday morning job, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be making coffees, you can be working at McDonald's, flipping burgers. Eventually, you will find out what you don't like doing.
Yeah.
All right. So we can discard those, can't we? And you find out what you do like doing and also what you're good at. And also where the money is as well. So if you get yourself like a Venn diagram, you've done all these jobs, so you get a Venn diagram, you've got 3 circles, you know what you're good at, you know what your passion is, and you know where the money is. right? So if you've got one thing that goes into the middle, into that sweet spot. So I know, say for example, you like YouTube, and you're good at producing videos, and there's money in it. There's the sweet spot. You've got it from all three areas. That's where you are, and that's what I did. When I started my first business, I was, good at communicating. So that made me good at sales. So you got your sales covered. I was passionate about flying radio control helicopters, which at the time was very hard to do and not many people did it. So that was my passion, and there was money in it. So the three combine, and then you try and twist it a little bit to make it different from everyone else. Mm-hmm. And by working in a model shop for a while, part-time, I could write down all those different things that they were doing well, like, they sell well, or he's a good customer, I'll get his number, and all the rest. But the important thing is not writing down what's good. It's what's bad about a business that you're working in as well. And really drill down, ask good questions. You're only going to get good answers if you ask good questions. So the quality of your questions determines the quality of your answers. And you can learn so much from a small business that you'll never learn in a big business. Yeah. Because you're just a number there. Whereas if you're in a team of, let's say 10, 15 people, you can learn everything about that business. And then all the bad things, you can make sure that you can improve on those. And it's not about inventing the wheel here when you start a business. The wheel's already been invented. You're just tweaking a few spokes, and that will make your business unique. I mean, Uber didn't invent taxis. Yeah. They just invented a better way to do it. Yeah. Still a car, still a driver, but a better system. So you're not inventing the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Same with Airbnb as well. I've seen you mention that one, yeah.
Exactly. They own no property. Yeah. And yet, look at it. It's enormous.
So the model company was one of the first ones you started that actually had some degree of success.
Yeah, I mean, I did lots of different things, lots of different businesses. I'd say most of them were successful, but not really scalable. And that's the important thing. So obviously service-based businesses that you operate around your local area are not that scalable. They're good for fast money. They don't cost you much to set up. So car washing rounds, all that sort of thing, don't cost much to do, but they do bring in, money. Mm-hmm. So you can't scale that, sorry. Then you go into selling products locally. Again, very hard to scale. So it's all about gradually moving along, gradually building your worth and changing how you're operating as you go through life.
I'm trying to think of the first few things which I did when I think that the very first this is when I was a teenager. I needed a bit of pocket money. My dad was not going to give me any pocket money. He's like, you can work for it.
And that is a good thing.
Yeah.
That is a good dad.
Yeah.
I'm like that.
I'm sure you do the same. I had to clean everybody's shoes. So me and my brother played rugby, so I had to clean the rugby boots. I had to polish everybody's shoes. I had to mow the lawn, and I had to clean my dad's car. So doing all those things, he would give me my pocket money. Then I was a gardener temporarily. This was in between university during the holidays. I would just go and garden people's houses, which was all right. But it was very labor intensive, but it was like a decent bit of cash.
Yep. And
then I remember one summer, this was probably the most tedious job I ever had. It was working in a warehouse. And I think it was these wine glasses that were sold by Asda. They'd made loads of them, but they made a mistake on the labeling, which said like 3 for 2. And they didn't want to show that. So they basically needed people to put stickers over that label so that no one could see it anymore. So there was me, a couple of friends, and I think it was like a couple of Polish people. We would basically unpack crate after crate of these boxes of wine glasses, and there were 6 of them in a box. And we had to put sticker one side, sticker other side, put it back in the box again and again and again. The whole summer doing exactly the same thing.
And all these jobs you've done, you find out what you don't want to do long term.
Yeah.
But they also help you with your interaction with people. Mm-hmm. Because again, social media is stopping a lot of this interaction. So, everyone thinks they've got thousands of friends, but actually they haven't.
Yeah.
And all this thing about meeting people and socializing. I would say if there's one thing youngsters lack at the moment from my, what I see is that social interaction.
Yeah.
With real people. Yeah. And I think that's invaluable, to be honest, because meeting people is always going to be important, whatever you do.
Yeah. And being like just punctual as well, just showing up on time for something, looking presentable, and like you said, just being able to have that communication and people skills. Because there's so many people who immediately become self-employed and they just don't really understand how business works.
Well, I was saying on the punctuality, early is on time is late, and late is just not acceptable.
Yeah.
You should be early. We were here 15 minutes at least early, sat in the lobby, thought about having a coffee, make sure we're ready to come up and be here on time. I think it's very important. It shows respect for your host, sorry.
Yeah.
Some people can get away with it. Some people have probably earned the right. I won't name names, but some people can be late purely because of the what they've built up, the credibility they've built up. But I think realistically, it shows a lot of respect that if you're on time, so much, and it's underrated, shall we say?
Yeah, and I also have had my fair share of with this and other things. Just your time is valuable. You don't want to be wasting your time waiting on other people.
No, for sure.
And it's one of the reasons I go to the gym and I train by myself, because I'm like, look, I don't have the time to be waiting around for people to show up and to be talking during a gym session. It's like, I need to go when I'm available to go, and I go get it done and they'll leave.
Smash that hour or whatever you're going to do and get back on. Yeah. Get on the treadmill.
I've noticed as well, a lot of people, especially young people, they're really impatient, and it's like they just want to immediately go into the first job being their dream job, and fast tracking their way to earning as much money as possible as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Which I feel like, good for you if you can manage to do that. And there is ways to do that, but I think a lot of young people just need to go and do some shitty jobs just to get a feel for it.
I think the trouble is that is pushed by social media again, isn't it? It's follow your passion and all the rest of it. What if your passion has no end money to it?
Yeah.
One of my passions was racing cars. Well, all the will in the world, even half the Formula One grid don't get paid as drivers. They're there via lots of sponsorship and everything to get them into that position. So you're not going to earn a lot of money. Yes, it's glamorous and it's a lifestyle and all the rest of it, but realistically, you're not going to earn long-term wealth out of it. So, a passion might not be the thing that you should go for straight away, because passions, once you've got your financial situation sorted out, you can follow whatever passion you want.
Yeah.
So I got my finances sorted out, my business sorted out, everything ticking over nicely. I went motor racing. I got, everything sorted out. I can go and do other things. You can follow your passions once everything's sorted out. Now, obviously, if your passion happens to tie in with your business, that's very lucky. And again, take my business, for example. I was very passionate about flying models, and I've flown all around the world. But I wasn't going to get paid for it. That's what I saw. And I thought, I've got to get myself into the model industry if I'm going to enjoy my passion and use some of my passion towards my business. So yes, you could say I followed my passion, but firstly, it was business. And I always separated my own hobby, as it were, my own enjoyment of the hobby, as separate from the actual physical business. Business was business. You can be friends to everyone, all your mates down the model flying club doing great deals and everything, but you're not going to survive, are you? Mm-hmm. So I think separating that passion from your business is quite important, but sometimes you get a bit of crossover, which is good.
I think for me, I realized that my passion was going to the gym. I just loved working out, but I never saw myself being a teacher or a coach. And I can't say that I am the most passionate person ever about educating or teaching, but it turns out that I was quite good at it because, first of all, I knew how to do it myself. I just loved going to the gym, and also because I'd built up so much experience with coaching people on a one-to-one basis for years. Yeah. When it came to educating people online, I was actually quite good at it. So that kind of worked out for me. And then obviously, as you said, once you get your finances sorted and you've got like a decent stream of revenue coming in, then you can maybe
follow all
start
sorts
trying,
of passions.
which is kind of like what I've done. And there's things I've tried which have worked, and then other things which I've tried which have not worked so much.
But that's the rule of business, isn't it? Lots of things won't work. And there is definitely a fear culture out there as well. And I think, while you're young, you can take so many risks. It's unbelievable because you're going to bounce back, and failure is drummed into you in school as failure. Well, I always look at it as a lesson. Generally it's a free lesson. Okay, if you lose a bit of money, it's cost you a little bit, but it's cost you a little bit to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
And you're not going to do it again. You know, you've learned from it and you can move on from it. So don't be afraid to fail. You know, you look at all the richest people in the world, all the people that you look up to, they've all failed multiple times, you know, and that's what makes them successful because they've taken those hits, they've taken those L's, and now they know how to fly.
What was one of the failures that you experienced that taught you the most?
Oh, that's a good question because it's a very, very hard one to answer. I think going into business with someone in Europe that I really didn't understand him enough, and he only brought perhaps what I brought.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the lesson I learned from that was that you need to bring someone into a business that complements what you do. So say you're a baker, for example, and you bake the most fabulous cakes in the world. You're brilliant at it. Everyone looks at your cakes that sees them. They're the best. Can't believe it. I want them. And you can sell them locally. And if you can't market them, you can't sell them. If you're no good at marketing, so you need a marketer.
Yeah.
You need someone who can run a business. So that's when you bring in that partner that's good at all those things. You don't know how to bake and got the first clue, but he knows how to sell them.
Yeah. You don't want somebody else who's also going to be an amazing baker. It's just like,
what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point? You know, you can invest in a partner that brings all those complementary things to the party. And if you said, that's probably a regret of mine that I didn't initially have a partner when I started out that complemented what I didn't know how to do. So a lot of those lessons were hard learned.
How old were you at that point?
Well, I actually physically started my first shop. So let's say bricks and mortar store at 20. So it's pretty young, really. I did an apprenticeship as a carpenter and joiner up until the age of 20, and I got a bit bullied. I couldn't get the jobs I wanted. I won various awards for my time within the apprenticeship, which no one else had ever done at the company I was with. And I thought, well, hey, here we go, all the big jobs. I love making staircases. In fact, it's not so much I like making staircases. I like going to a house that's really awkward to put a staircase in. So let's say a listed building that's particularly awkward, very quirky, and working out how you can get that staircase in, not only to fit and do a good job, but to look the part.
Yeah.
Now, making it is the other thing, which is fairly enjoyable, but the design of it, that was it. And that's where I thought my life was going. I was going to design really upmarket staircases, furniture, all that sort of stuff.
The staircase connoisseur.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I made a staircase before I left working for that particular company with, not just me, team of guys are making it. And the staircase was £29,000. Okay, now that was the best part of nearly 40 years ago. All right, that's a lot of money. You could buy 1.5 terrace houses for that amount of money at the time, because I always remember they were $19,999 for a terraced house at that point.
Yeah.
And this staircase was so big, they craned it in through the roof of this London house. And to see that in place, and then to talk to the guy who owned the house, and that was inspirational. Again, you're getting out and you're talking to people. And he was the first person that said to me, look, I always ask questions, like, how do you get so you don't have to go to work? And how are you playing golf in the middle of the week? He said, well, you've got to get your money to work for you.
Yeah.
If you don't get your money working for you, you're working forever. You've got to build your own dreams, not someone else's.
Yeah.
It's very important.
So does that come down to having the right team or pursuing the right type of business?
I think you build a team, don't you? You build a team as you go forward. And, that's the important thing, to get the right people around you. And it takes time. You get the wrong people and, you can have a team of 12 people. And this happened to us, I don't know, about 6 years ago. I won't say names, but we had like a rotten apple within the system.
Yeah.
And that can disrupt the whole thing. It's amazing, absolutely amazing how much it affects morale, get up and go, everything about the business. So, the first rule of thumb is if you feel you need to sack someone, you should have done it yesterday.
Yeah.
Don't linger.
Okay. Have you gone into a business partnership with anybody else since that?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've had a couple of successful partnerships. I mean, I have a fabulous partnership with my son currently, but I had a partnership a few years back, and that was successful. There's no way I could run. And I was also a partner with my dad as well at one point, because he ran one of my stores, and another store I opened was in partnership with another guy. He decided he wanted to go his own way. He did. Unfortunately, going his own way, it didn't survive. But when it went down, I knew he was a good guy. He just didn't have the business experience. He then came back and worked for me until he retired. So, never burn your bridges either. It's another golden rule as well, particularly if you know they're good people. Good people are hard to find.
How does that dynamic work with your son? Because I like the idea of that, because it's something I would quite like to do when I have a son, hopefully one day. But you're kind of going into partnership with someone who doesn't have a whole deal of experience, so it's almost like I'm curious to know how it works, because no doubt you're mentoring them quite a lot on everything, but at the same time you're in a business partnership.
Well, I would say in the early days, certainly you're mentoring a fair bit, because it's all about business and the things you should and shouldn't do, what you might want to achieve. I mean, I remember him coming to me when he left school, because he didn't want to go to university, which I think is a very, very brave decision when all your peers are pushing you down that route.
He was 16 or 18 at the time?
He was 18 at the time and decided not to go, and he stopped and set up his own business. And I said, well, look, what are you aiming to make a day? And he told me an amount. I said, no, son, you're off the mark. You've got to be looking at. And he was he was so upset. And I think the trouble with parenting, you can go, oh, well done. Oh, well done, son. Well done. That's brilliant. Fantastic. But you've got to be realistic. His skill set is worth more than he's pricing himself at. Now, obviously you can do free jobs, and I get that. It's very important when you're starting out. Get some testimonials, get some free jobs done so you can show what you're capable of doing. But then you've got to find your value. And if you're valuable, you should be up in it all the time. Just keep up in what you're charging. And at the point someone says no, or they're thinking about it, you've got two decisions. Were they your sort of client? Did you want them anyway? Or is it that you're just getting to around that point of value where you should be? Within a year, he was up to £1,000 a day, on the jobs he was going to. And, okay, I wouldn't have said that to him straight away to get to that area, but he's capable of that. And seeing that capability, I think you've got to be strong. I think parenting is very hard, which you will find out at some stage. They always say there's no handbook for parenting. Well, in actual fact, there's probably thousands, but none of them are necessarily a blueprint for it. But I think praise where praise is due, but not praise just to keep your kid happy. I mean, sometimes the best parenting is being quite hard and quite harsh. I just recently saw a post online of a prisoner on death row writing, I don't know if you've seen it, he's written a letter to his mother. I know it sounds like sort of passing the buck a bit, but it was like, when you didn't pick me up on this, when I stole this from the shop and you said, oh, to keep it, it's not worth taking it back. And, when Dad wanted to tell me off and you said he couldn't, and then you split up because of the rows we had, all those things are hard parenting, but they should happen. But that led him down the route he ended up on. And I think it's important to be, fair. I always remember my son's passion when he was younger was magic. Absolutely loved magic, and I like magic. I know how a lot of it's done, but I still enjoy it, because if you can't see how it's done and you know how it's done, that's good magic. A good sleight of hand. And he'd show me tricks, and I'd say, yeah, it's good, but I can see how you did it. So you got to practice on that. And again, it's upsetting for him. You give a bit of praise, it's good, but it can be better. And I think eventually he appreciated that, because he was doing kids' parties. And you're only good enough when I can't see how you're doing it. You are good enough to go and do that in front of anyone. And you get to that stage and you are good.
I would imagine one of the most difficult things about parenting is if you grew up and you didn't have anything.
No, I didn't have anything, that's for sure.
And then you almost think, oh, I want to give my children or my son everything I didn't have. But then if you give them too much, then they don't have that drive, they don't have ambition. I've noticed as well, if I've ever got money for whatever reason for not really having to work for it, I just don't value it that much.
Easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
I mean, my son wanted to start his videography business and he needed a laptop. Now, look, I could go and buy that laptop for him, give him the money, go and get it, whatever. But what do you learn from that about business? Not a thing.
Yeah.
So I said to him, well, you're going to have to sort out how you're going to do that. You're going to either have to wait and earn the money. Oh, but I'll lose money because I've got this job I need it for. I said, or you're going to have to borrow the money, or you're going to have to, however you're going to do it, or get an advance on the job. You've got to work out how you're going to do it because that's your lesson to learn. Now, he'll always say, oh, I could have just given it. But I shouldn't just give it. It's better to learn the lessons of business along the way. Otherwise, you miss them.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's the point in missing the lessons? Because they're crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like someone winning the lottery and go, yeah, I've made it. Well, you can't make it again.
Yeah.
Whereas if you learn all the skills and you've made $1 million and you lose it, well, you can do it again because you've still got the skills.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you do it quicker.
Exactly.
The second time.
Yeah. I went through one of your posts where you rated some of your income streams based on how difficult they were to basically achieve. I think you started off number 1, personal brand. That's one of the easiest things you can start.
Yeah, and I think everyone should have a personal brand. You know, you get out there and be very careful of it as well, because everything you post is there forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone's got a snapshot of it. Someone's, taken a picture of something you've said, or it's filed away somewhere, and that can come back to bite you. So your personal brand is really important.
But that's a problem though, because a lot of young people are idiots. They are posting things which they're probably going to haunt them later on. Like one of the things I'm quite happy about was when I came onto the scene, I think it was probably about 26. So I know for sure if I was pumping out content as an 18-year-old, I would have probably said or done some stupid things. And
it's a shame because, as I say, it will haunt you for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. One of the things we made sure of, again, with my son was, you can only, you can be online, you can be on Facebook at the time and various other things, but you cannot swear. Cannot swear.
Oh.
You've got to think about what you're doing. But if you swear, you lose your device. Because we're not having it. Yeah. So that makes you thoughtful of what you're saying rather than, because once you've done it, once you've sent it, that's it. It's out there in the ether forever.
Yeah.
So that was quite a crucial stage. And I think also, and I'll probably get a bit of hate for this, but youngsters probably shouldn't have, the power that they have in their handheld devices at the ages they're having it. I mean, I'd like to say 16 is probably around the age they should have it, but let's be good about it, say 14, but they've got them at 8. I mean, they've got access to everything. Well,
I think as well, if you are young and you're on those devices and you somehow figured out a way to get a lot of followers very quickly, that is probably not the best for your mental health.
Yeah.
Or the way that, the world works, because you automatically at a young age have a lot of attention and you might not have even done much to get that attention.
I mean, they used to say that we didn't talk about mental health as much back in my day, which is true. But then I don't think there was as many problems back then. And I think it is definitely a thing now where it's more of a thing for sure, because you hear it all the time. It's, it's in your employment laws and everything to make sure that you're being careful with people and not upsetting them and everything else, because it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Without doubt. I mean, you never had, several million friends online that suddenly turn on you and tell you you're ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have had the school bully, but you knew he was a school bully telling you that. So it didn't really matter, did it? Because he tells everyone that.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those things.
You can't get comfortable in yourself, can you, with social media? That's another problem youngsters have, that they're not comfortable in themselves. I think they've got to change to fit in. I mean, you got to be comfortable with who you are. I mean, I was tall, ginger, lanky, loved playing with model aeroplanes. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, model aeroplanes turned into my business. I was tall and skinny, so I'm not too fat now, thankfully. So that sort of kept on, but I've lost the ginger hair. So, there's your blessing.
Yeah. You mentioned the model airplanes. You said number 2 was the eBay store.
Yeah.
So is that still
it's still
well?
Very big. Yeah, we do a lot on eBay, and we buy a lot of, I always say, failing businesses, or there's a lot of people retire within my niche that can't necessarily sell their businesses. They just want to pack up, and I'll go in and I'll offer an amount for the whole lot, sweep the floor, they're done.
In that same niche?
Within that niche, yeah. So it can be, it's quite a wide niche. So it can be die-cast models, it can be radar control models, anything sort of within that niche. There's a few things that come in from outside it, but that niche for us is quite good.
So you're basically eliminating the competition. You just want to take.
Well, I think competition's good, but I don't think you're eliminating it. I mean, I've actually had people
on eBay though.
Not, I wouldn't say eliminating the competition. No, there's plenty of competition out there. I mean, the biggest competition is coming from direct to customer competition from the manufacturers. Actually, big competition that you're not going to crack. So you got to be aware of that. And that's part of flipping the script as we go along. But no, it's I've had people literally break down and cry because they've got so stressed with their businesses by the time they get to retire, what to do with it, and they've had all these hassles and stuff. We clear it through, and they've literally broken down with joy that it's all over at that stage, so that's good.
You want Amazon as well?
No, Amazon doesn't really work very well for us. We've tried a couple of different ways of selling on Amazon. For us, it doesn't really work. But for other things, it's fantastic. So it just depends what you're into.
Why doesn't it work on Amazon?
I just think it's just the model space just doesn't seem to work.
People aren't searching for it.
Not really. They might search for a main product, but because we sell so many small component parts, it seems to work better on eBay. And eBay is an amazing search engine. I mean, essentially, it is a search engine, and it finds everything we've got. So you might have one part that you would never sell in a million years in your shop. You put it on eBay, and there's someone in Outer Mongolia that goes, "Oh, that's exactly the bit I was looking for." Bam. And out it goes.
I wonder, a lot of these people who are selling stuff on Amazon, they probably underestimate eBay. Like, it's still...
Yeah, I think it's very good. I think Amazon's very good, but they do sort of service slightly different markets, I think.
You say eBay's older?
eBay is older, isn't it? Yeah, I think definitely.
Yeah, because I remember when it was like the place to go when I was in my 20s, early 20s. And it was fun then. It was like so unregulated. You could literally sell anything you wanted to sell.
Yeah.
So I remember I kind of got into, I guess it was drop shipping very early on. I knew nothing about how anything worked. I just knew at that point in time there was a demand for Ed Hardy clothes. So I found someone that was selling it somewhere in China. And I was like, oh, I'll just literally buy from, because it was cheap there. I was like, I'll buy it from China. I'll just ship it to these people who are buying it from wherever they were buying it from.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't realize until a couple of weeks, months later that because I never saw the clothes. They were replicas. They were fakes.
Yeah.
So obviously, what I was doing was highly illegal because I was selling fake merchandise. So I mean, I made a lot of money very quickly, but then eBay were very quick to be like, hey, what you're doing is legal. So they actually they kind of blacklisted me. So I didn't have my eBay account anymore. My PayPal was blocked, and it's a shame really, because I think I had the right idea but just the wrong approach, and just a lack of understanding of how the actual world works. But I remember there was definitely, back then, eBay was the place to be.
Well, one of my team had a very successful eBay site, and he knows eBay inside out, which is really good. And he was really into his gaming. And again, it's one of those situations where you say to yourself, I'm not going to earn money from gaming. I'm just not at that level where you can earn the money. But I know about all of it, and I know that these sticks are better and these paddles are better. And so he set up a store on eBay, and within a year he's doing $250,000 turnover, which is very, very good. Now he's come to work for us. So, but it works. And I think the thing with eBay is it has got expensive, it has got forgotten by some, but for others it's a go-to place. I think if I was buying furniture, I'd be looking at Amazon perhaps and other sites, but and maybe not eBay, but for certain products, it's very good.
You know what, my dad actually, he gave me a really good idea when I was young. This was when I was a teenager. He was like, look, you know how to use eBay. Why don't you go around the neighbors' houses and ask if they have anything that they want to sell? And obviously at this point in time, I had a lot of free time. So there was a guy who lived across the road from me who actually had like a corner shop, but he had this garage basically full of crap, which wasn't being sold.
He hasn't got the time to try and sell it.
He's not got the time, and he actually had this old till system, this massive till system in the garage, and he was always complaining about it just taking up so much space. And I said to him, look, why don't you let me try and sell it? And then you can just give me a little cut from what the selling price is. And anyway, we sold it, and it actually got quite a lot of interest, and the bids went up, and it sold for like £1,500.
Yeah,
and then
you'd probably find someone wanted it for parts or whatever it happened to be, and it's the perfect sell. They couldn't find it anywhere else.
That's really good for people, especially the teenagers who do have a lot of time. You'll be surprised how much junk people have and they just want to sell, and there will be a demand for it somewhere.
Well, I always say as a side hustle, that's something you can certainly do, and expand it a bit. Go around the local trading estate. Go to the local plumbers merchants. They might have a cold tap and not the hot tap. They can't sell it on its own. No one wants it, but you put it on eBay and you've got the time to do it, because time is your tool when you're young. You've got plenty of time. Just get listing, get selling, and you can do it on a commission. You can do it or I'll buy that pallet off you. I mean, you buy pallets from Amazon, can't you, of returns? Sometimes your quid's in, sometimes not so. But it's certainly a good side hustle to get involved with.
We'll get back to the podcast in a second, but first of all, I want to say a massive shout out to Bionic. I have been using their supplements for the past 4 years. I never knew what supplements I needed to take. I'd always go into the pharmacy and buy a load of random bottles and end up popping pills all day, every day, not having a clue if I was consuming the vitamins which I should be consuming at all. But Bionic came to save the day. They are a tailor-made supplement company that will put together your own specific formula based on your activity, your gender. I have Bionic Pro, where I get the blood test done every 3 to 4 months, and based on that blood test, I get my own personalized formula. For those people who don't want to do a blood test or don't have access to that, then you can go with Bionic Go, where you just have to fill in a short questionnaire, and based on that questionnaire, you will get your tailored supplements with a surprisingly high degree of accuracy. So stop the guesswork, sign up to Bionic, and ensure that you remove those deficiencies and build up your immune system.
And go back to that list we have. Number 3 was the stock market.
Yep.
Yeah. I've
been investing since I was 18, it's definitely been very, very good for me.
It tends to be less sexy because of you got to be in it for the long run.
Well, you can day trade, which is rather sexy, but very high risk. But my strategy is always long term, and I invest heavily into index funds, which are very, very straightforward. For me, the less I do, the less I touch my money, the better. Think of your money like, I think we did this in a video, like a cookie. The more you handle it, the more it crumbles away. So if you can lock it away in a tax advantage account like an ISA or a Roth IRA, all your gains are tax free. Leave it for a while, it's going to be worth a fair amount of money. And again, time is on your side. The younger you start, the better. And for the cost of a coffee a day, you can be a millionaire. If you can get 10% per annum in growth via an S&P 500, for example, which is what it's averaged over the last 40 years, you are a millionaire. And that's your safety net.
Yeah.
Now, I get a lot of people say to me, I don't want $1 million when I retire. Well, that's not your only thing you're doing. That's on the side. That's your wealth building. And it's very, very important just to keep that ticking away in the background. The less you have to do, the better. And if you get into the habit of setting a certain amount every month that you can afford, ideally a percentage of your wage, so as your wage goes up, you increase it, you've got that safety net for you forever. Now, my safety net, I probably never have to use it. It becomes generational wealth for my family. So
I was going to say, I imagine you still to this day not touched it.
I don't touch it. I made the rule that I didn't want to touch it. I thought, I'll put it away. I won't touch it. You can always crawl out the gutter if you know there's something there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't talk about the psychological effect that can have on your happiness and well-being, knowing that in the worst case scenario, it's there.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have it and you literally have nothing to your name, or you're even in the negative, like that, you can't stop thinking about it, and it ends up stressing you out every single day. Like I've been there before, even with in earlier stages of life when I've not been very good at tracking my money. When I have been in a situation where my expenses have been more than my income, and I've literally had nothing else to my name, it doesn't feel good at all. And you're trying to do everything you can possibly do to get yourself out of that situation.
Well, a lot of people say I don't understand how to do it, and I do several walkthrough videos of how to set up an account, open a brokerage, do all these things. But realistically, you just got to take a morning off or a day off and look after your finances and sort it out. It's all it takes for the rest of your life. A morning, a day maybe if it takes you longer, and you will work it out. Use the videos we put out there, work through it gradually, bit by bit. You will get there, and once it's set up, perfect.
This is on your YouTube channel.
Yeah. There's lots of different videos, walkthroughs and things. So it's ideal.
What's your thoughts on having a wealth manager or somebody to do it for you?
Well, if you've got a wealth manager, you've got charges. And the beauty of an index fund is it's passively managed. So you've not got high charges. Your charges are like generally 0.01%. It's very, very small. So if you invest £10,000, for example, it's costing you about a tenner. It's not very expensive. Very, very cheap. Whereas if you've got a wealth manager, he's going to charge you upwards of 1% to a bit more. Now, it might not sound like much, but if your growth is 8%, well, you're losing 1% of that.
Yeah.
But you're not losing it 1 year, you're losing it every year.
So it accumulates.
For 40 odd years. So it becomes a big amount. So that 1% might equate to £10,000 less at the end or more. It's a significant amount. So I think you can do lots of wealth management, and that's great. I mean, I'm not a financial advisor. I just talk about what's worked for me.
Yeah.
So you might be in a position where you want wealth management. I mean, you might be, Mike.
Well, I've been toying with the idea.
Yeah, that's how it works. But it doesn't really affect your safety net. All those other things you can do you should do anyway.
Yeah.
And if you've got an excess to that, and ideally, I mean, I always say 70% of your earnings is going to go towards your living expenses, your rent, your food, and bits and pieces. 20% you should be investing.
Yeah.
Should be investing. I mean, I was always told 10 when I was younger. So a minimum I've ever invested or put away is 10% of what I've earned, minimum, and that's grown. And so I'd say 70% on living, 20% on investing, and then 10% for the fun stuff. Don't stop you having fun now. But you're securing yourself later on down the line as well.
Yeah. It's like delayed gratification. Almost.
Yeah, I guess. But as I say, if you don't have to touch it, you don't have to touch it. It's, generational wealth at that point, which is great.
Next on the list was the brand product range. So that's the Century UK.
It is, yeah. Basically, this started in school. I was 14 years old in a geography lesson, and I said to myself, I can't afford the model aeroplane I want to buy. The kit's too expensive for me to be able to buy it. So I designed it, just drew it out, went to the woodwork class, cut a load of the plywood parts out, went home, built this model, and it flew really well. And it's called the Riot. And I always had this design in the back of my head that maybe I should manufacture it. And it got to the point where I had to really do my own product range so I could control the price and the quality and everything within that range, within the space I'm in. So I flew to China to find a manufacturer because that was the place and probably still is to manufacture that sort of product. Didn't understand a word of Chinese, had a card with take me to the hotel, take me to a toy fair. Could have said anything, to be honest. I didn't know if I was coming back.
Take me to the red light district.
Didn't have that one. Could have come back with one kidney missing. I just didn't know. But again, it's taking yourself out of your comfort zone to make things happen.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to meet a lot of great manufacturers, and then some, a couple of them invited me over to Shenzhen, so I got an internal flight to Shenzhen and went in their factories and went, you are the guys, I need you to manufacture my products. And then you find other products as well that maybe aren't that good, like a glass with a hole in the bottom. It looks brilliant, but it doesn't quite work. So it just needs adapting. So, right, now that's perfect. So I could adapt a lot of products as well and make them better, make them good enough for our market. And that's the quality control aspect. So
did that require a lot of upfront investment?
Well, it's like anything, as you go through your business and you're building your wealth, I was able to organically grow that.
Okay.
And I just read Shoe Dog just recently by Nike, the founder of Nike. And a very, very similar story. Okay, that's a multi-global brand, but the story is very similar. You stretch and you rob Peter to pay Paul, and it takes time. Then you get to a point where you think, is all this going to implode? I'm selling so much gear, but I've got no cash flow.
Yeah.
So there are times where you may need to borrow to push your business along. I'm very organic. I like not to borrow if I can help it. But sometimes you've got to borrow to make more.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like. But that's a good book. Anyone wants to read it? Very, very good.
And is that still ticking over nicely?
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had retail stores.
Yep. Originally, I wanted hundreds. I thought, I'm going to dominate. I have hundreds of shops, which is what a lot of people think. And then obviously you've got to bring that back because of the online side of things.
Yeah, well, especially the UK, death of the high street. I mean, you look at it now and there's barely anybody walking, apart from London. Like everywhere else is very quiet.
Yeah, it's decimated, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the retail stores we have are put in the right positions that they work very well.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, from time to time, I jump behind the counter and I'll sell.
Yeah.
Like last weekend, I wanted to play golf. The course was waterlogged. I went, you know what? I'm going to go stand behind the counter, see what's going right in the business, what's going wrong, say hi to some of my older customers that have been coming in for years. And I really get a kick from that.
Yeah.
In fact, when someone comes in and they want, let's say, a model aeroplane, everyone wants a Spitfire.
Yeah.
It's not the right aeroplane to buy, first off. If you can get it in the air, you're going to crash it. So when you can explain it from a point of experience and you explain all the right things to buy, this is best because of this is best, and you put all the deal together in front of them and they go, do you know what? I'm going to buy that.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a kick.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whether it's a block of flats for multi-millions or whether it's a model aeroplane that someone's taken your advice on, the kick's the same.
Mm-hmm. My grandpa used to collect them, not ones that had a motor and flew, but they were the ones that you would buy, be in loads of different pieces.
Yeah,
and then you would assemble it and then you would paint it yourself.
It's still very popular. In fact, it's a growth part of the industry at the moment.
Yeah.
Because obviously a lot of people have got small homes or small spaces, so it lends itself quite well to that. So it is a growth part. It was a declining part that's now bouncing back.
Yeah. And then the last two, residential real estate and commercial real estate.
Yeah.
These are more difficult to kind of get into.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you can get into residential real estate by buying in a REIT or in a buying group. You get into real estate by finding properties for investors as well, and that's quite a big industry in itself. But I like buying property. I always see property as a very tangible asset. I'll drive past the properties I own just to go, yeah, that's there. Yeah, that's there.
Not on fire, still.
Yeah, still working. Rent's still coming in, and you can touch it. It's real. Yeah. So I do like property for that reason. It's very, very good. I could have done a lot more with property than I have, but again, because I am a little averse to borrowing. I do borrow when I need to. I could have heavily borrowed, but then you can look at the flip side of that, and the recessions that I've been through, which is I think 3 major recessions, could have toppled me had I overextended. So you got to weigh up the scales. Really.
Would you say you're more risk averse?
I am definitely more not risk averse. I'm borrowing averse.
Okay.
Which I think is slightly different.
Yeah.
Because what we said about the, the feeling of having achieved something or owning something, I like that. I think that outweighs, like buying your own property. A lot of people say you should rent your property, not buy your own property. And I get it. The maths works. If you're not going to live in it for 7 years, you're going to be moving around. Absolutely. What is the point in owning it? But if you do want to own it, the feeling of this is paid for. This is mine. No one can take this away from me. That I think outweighs sometimes for me the maths of doing it a different way.
Yeah. So would you advise youngsters in the UK, for example, to try and get onto the property ladder or hold off a little bit?
If you're buying to rent, as in buying to rent it out, I think it's a good way of going about it.
Still.
Yeah, because, you've still got your mobility then, haven't you? And people do like to be able to move around. So that is not a bad investment in my book. Yeah. All right. Now, again, maths wise, it might work that others are better. And my son is a little bit against buying his own property, for example. But if you're buying to rent it out, I mean, essentially your tenants are paying for your building that you're buying. And say, for example, if you had a house in the UK currently that someone's renting from you and paying the mortgage for you, then you're always on that ladder. You're always rising with that tide, aren't you? So you've always got something to go back to. So I quite like the idea of that. But obviously, if you're going to be there for 5 years or less, the maths actually doesn't work out at all. You know, you're much better off to rent, much better off. As long as you invest your deposit, that's how that all works. You can't just go, I'm better off renting, I'm going to spend all my money. You've got to look at that deposit you would have put down on a property to buy and invest that, because that's what makes the difference. The fact that that's increasing in value in the background, and that deposit will always then be big enough to use as a deposit. Otherwise, it's losing value.
Yeah. You said in one of your reels, 3 of the worst businesses to start. Number 1, clothing brand.
Yeah.
Number 2,
why do we need any more clothing brands, for God's sake? I mean, most of them fail. I mean, obviously, if you're influencer led, then it can be a good thing. But
I've done it. It's not easy.
Yeah, there you go. Always when I was up and coming, the rag trade was the hardest thing to be involved in. And that's essentially what it is. So,
the rag
clothing,
trade.
Yeah, that's what it's called. But the clothing industry is difficult. It's very, very difficult.
It's weird though, because everybody still wants to do it.
Yeah, because they see the people that have done it and got it right, and maybe lucked as well to a certain degree, and they're selling out on every drop. Of course they want some of that. I want some of that. But who's going to buy Mark Tilbury's range of shirts? I don't know. Probably no one, but sounds cool.
Yeah, I've had a lot of youngsters DM me and message me about wanting to start their own clothing business. And I'm like, do you really know what you're getting yourself into? Like, you have to live and breathe this.
Yeah.
And you're not going to see the payoffs for a very, very long time.
If ever.
Yeah. And the initial cost just to get the stock.
Yeah.
And everything else up and running is stressful.
You just look at one item of clothing, one item, doesn't matter what it is. Let's say a sweater or a hoodie, for example. Well, it's not one, is it? That's one design, right? Now you need, 5 sizes?
Yeah.
Really? Probably at least 5 sizes. How many colours do you need? 4?
Yeah.
4, 5? So how much inventory is that? Well, you're done in, aren't you?
Yeah.
Unless you can pre-sell it. If you can pre-sell it, then of course you go into that, and that's a totally different animal. But normally you can't pre-sell everything.
You got number 2, restaurants.
Yeah, they're always closing.
Did you ever dabble into?
No. I thought about it. I thought about starting, with franchises like McDonald's or Costa.
Yeah, because you've spoken a lot about franchises in the reels.
Yeah, I think there is definitely money to be had, but again, it's not my area of what I'd say I'm comfortable with. And I know you should go out your comfort zone, but I think there's a link, but before I'd get into a restaurant, there'd have to be something else first before I got close enough to a knowledge base that would help me in that. And the problem with restaurants, particularly independent restaurants, is everyone goes to the new shiny restaurant. And as soon as the new shiny one opens, the other one's tarnished.
See that all the time here in Dubai.
Yeah, of course.
There's a new hotspot which is relevant for a couple of months, and then people get bored. Yeah, and they go to the next place.
Yeah, and that's how it works.
Yeah,
and it's very unfortunate because you can be the best chef in the world. Well, you could be the best chef in the world for certain, but you won't necessarily have the best restaurant because you don't know how to manage it, how to promote it, and all the rest of it. Most of the best restaurants have the best team behind them, promoting them and doing all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. But most people that start a restaurant are good at cooking or good chefs.
Yeah,
and that's not really the direction.
So would you say that if you wanted to get a taste of that world, it would be better to start
with a side, I'd say really with a side hustle. And that's why I was saying you need a link in between. So say, for example, you want to get into running a burger joint. Yeah. American diners are us, say. Yeah. Really, you almost want a burger van first, just to get used to it. Yeah. Test all the recipes. Why is your burger so much better than all the other millions of brilliant burgers out there? Find that niche. Is there enough profit in it? Now, when I go to bricks and mortar and make a restaurant for this, with all the added costs of doing that, is it still profitable?
Yeah.
And I think people just think, well, cost me £1 to make it. I sell it for £2. I'm going to be in profit. But you got to sell a hell of a lot of burgers for that.
Yeah. If you were going to franchise any brand out there, what would it be?
I'd have to say I haven't looked into it enough. What would you go for?
Oh, maybe I like burgers. In another life, I would have set up a burger chain. Like Five Guys and Shake Shack.
Okay, well, they're both doing very well, but I think if giving it a bit of thought there, I think I'd go more the healthy route purely because
make more sense.
Purely because that's where the youngsters are nowadays. They're all on the health kicks and doing the gym work and everything. And I think there's probably a shortage of that.
Actually,
Joe the Juice, that's one that's very good at the moment. So.
That's expanding rapidly.
Yeah.
I would go for one in Barcelona. Actually, in some European cities, there's a place called Honest Greens.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've ever been there.
I have heard of that.
They've got a couple in Barcelona. I think they might have started in Barcelona, Madrid.
I think there's some in New York, weren't there? Yeah.
Are they going to open? I think they're going to open one in London as well. But anyway, it's like the best, healthiest food. It's so delicious. It's so fresh. And whenever I'm traveling to these places, I eat there like every day. But there's nothing like that in here and in a lot of other places.
Well, you're adding the value because of the health and also the convenience, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because we started off the conversation with you saying when you started, you had to prep all your meals and probably couldn't go back to doing all that again.
No.
And that convenience is where you're adding value. And if you can add value to a product and deliver that to millions of people, what a business.
Yeah.
That is the business. All about adding value.
The last one you mentioned was day trading.
Yeah, I don't really like day trading. I think the only people that seem to be making money out of day trading are people telling you can make money out of day trading.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. I think you have to be very, very, very knowledgeable. And if they were really honest about it, most people wouldn't want to go to the extent that they need to go to for day trading. I've done various videos on day trading. Some of them won't be available yet. But it's a very, very tricky, difficult business that's made to sound easy.
Yeah.
So they can sell a course on it.
Yeah.
And that is a shame.
I mean, you see so much of it now. So many people selling courses.
Yeah.
People who have made a bit of money who are then teaching other people how to make money. And it's just like this weird cycle that seems to be happening at the moment.
Exactly that. I mean, I come from a place of, I got helped by a mentor. He helped me, and I try not to get too emotional because he's not with us anymore. He's a great guy, and he didn't even know how much he was helping me. I do get emotional talking about him. And that was what clicked 4 years ago, because I thought, it's time to give that back.
Yeah.
Give it back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do.
How did you manage to find somebody like that in your life?
I think they find you.
Really?
Yeah. I think if you're a social person, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Talk to people. People, you can't be a shy youngster. You've got to get out there. All this knowledge is there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he just latched on, and I latched on to him. He always had a flashy car, but he deserved it because of how he worked. Always had a bit of money on his hip. This is the thing. Always had I wasn't necessarily the best around. Used to rally cars as well.
Yeah.
You think, blimey, this is a guy, and any nugget he threw my way, it was like, whew, that's gold.
Yeah.
Whew, I remember that. I'm not going to forget that. And that's what you need. You do need that without a doubt. And we have a lot of followers and subscribers that are from one-parent families. Predominantly, that's the mum. They've got no one to ask.
Yeah.
No one. I don't need to be looked up to. That's not what it's about. Just making sure that, they're not missing what they should have had as youngsters.
Yeah. I think one thing what I notice if I meet younger fans or do meetups or whatever, they tend to be quite timid. Yeah. Like they're not confident and they're quite shy, and you can tell they're kind of stuck in their own way. And reminds me of me in a lot of ways when I was younger. I knew I had potential, but I was like stuck inside of my own shell. Like I needed to just come out, but I found it very difficult because I wasn't very confident. I didn't feel like I had much to offer the world. And it was a long journey, hard journey to kind of get out of that and to become the person that I am today. And I think a lot of people, they see the end result now and they think, oh yeah, well, it just must be easy for you. Like it's, you can speak on camera, you're good at communicating with people, you're good at talking, but it was all skills which I had to develop, and I had to put myself out there in very uncomfortable situations to become more comfortable. And like you said, if you're too afraid to ask for help or have conversations with people, then that's going to limit you quite a bit. So you just got to go for it.
And youngsters are getting more and more locked up, aren't they? You can't go out. There might be a weirdo down the park. Well, when I was young, we went down the park. We knew who the weirdo was. Yeah. So he didn't bother us. We knew who he was. You just got to get out, talk to all the people around your local area, get known, speak to people, and surround yourself with the people that, are good.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to change your friendship group as well. I mean, for some reason, it seems that your people you meet at school have got to be your friends for life. Well, that's not the case. Yeah, you know that. I mean, making the break out to here, some of your friends, I'm assuming, would have been left by the wayside, so to speak.
Yeah, there's still needs,
and that sort of hurts a little bit. But your friendship group changes, and you shouldn't be afraid of that because one leaves, another comes in. Your core friends, I mean, I would say 5. All right. And that's my core base. I know who they are. I know that I can lean on them. I know that if they need help, they can lean on me, and that's my core base. And then lots of associates, some coming in, some going out. And that's how it works.
How have you found it now with obviously the rise of your fame on social media? When it's like, 'cause I imagine at this point now, you've probably got more people than ever trying to reach out to you, either do business together or just wanting your time, they're wanting advice. How are you managing that?
Well, it is a little difficult because again, when we started, it was to help as many people as we can, and when it gets to a certain number, it becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult to answer can't answer all of the messages and all of the DMs. It's impossible. So at some stage, we will have to narrow that to the serious guys that want to start a serious side hustle or serious investing or really want to get niche down. So that will have to happen, and whether that's in a membership or some form of community that we can get together, then it has to happen, because that way I can then still help on a one-to-one basis, and that's where the real help is, without a doubt. So that will happen at some stage, I think.
What's your thoughts on the current state of the UK at the moment and starting a business there?
I think there's always room for businesses. Absolutely, always room for businesses. Whatever business you name, generally it's come up when there's been other competition against it or bad times. Bad times will come and go. Good businesses will ride through. But starting a business just for the sake of starting a business is a bad thing. You've really got to research what you're doing, be good at what you're doing, aim it into the right place. And if that needs mentorship to do that, then seek that mentorship out. And if someone says, no, mate, you shouldn't be going for this, listen, because there's reasons for that. Because there's reasons why everything's done the way it's done. It's just whether or not there is an alternative way to do that thing that's been done and whether that will work. And there's four main types of business. You can have a service-based business, which is basically, selling or helping people in your local area, very, very cheap to set up. You can have a product-based business that's local again, so selling to your local people, but there's problems with that, very hard to scale. But they're all stepping stones. You can then get onto a global platform, so you're selling lots of products on eBay or on Amazon, doing Amazon FBA. Again, all very scalable when you get to that stage. Or you can look at service again, but do that online. And that gives you the global reach, but also gives you the profit margins that you might be after. You're more in the 80% profit margins rather than with products probably down to 20%. So really, it's all a gradual thing. If you jump straight into business, I'm going to start a business tomorrow, that's not a good thing. if you work on it, work your way through it and look at it as marathon, not a sprint, then I think any time is a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, I started right in a bad recession. When I opened my model shop, people said, "You're absolutely mad." It was a massive recession.
What year was that?
Oh, well, it's 40 odd years ago. 47 years ago. Yeah. There you go. 37 years ago. Get it right. 37 years ago. And they said, "You're mad. There's no room in the market for another model shop. There's plenty of model shops out there. You're absolutely off your trolley. You're opening it in a garden centre complex. I mean, how mad is that?" Well, it turned out to be the best thing I ever did. Because yes, it was a recession, but I wasn't taking wads and wads and wads of money and then hitting a recession and going, "What's happened?" I was taking what I was taking and going, "Well, that's what I take. Right, let's improve on that. Let's improve on that." So it got better rather than getting worse going into a recession. So actually, people say you shouldn't start in a recession. Actually, it's not a bad time. It's like buying individual stocks. While the market's down, it's quite a good time to be buying.
Yeah.
Or generally, because the market has a habit of bouncing back. So you're getting at a discount. So certainly starting for me during a recession was a good thing.
What would you do if you go back to being 18, 21 years old? You know everything you know now, but you have no business, not a penny to your name. What would you do?
I would do online service-based business.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Because that's where the high profits are, as we've mentioned. You can make a lot of money on it. It's accessible worldwide. If you do a good job, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, that makes sense. A little bit on portfolio diversification strategies I want to talk about. What are the absolute basics that people should understand when it comes to doing that?
Well, that's quite a loaded question. Do you want to refine it a little bit?
I guess more so on the stocks. You want to invest a little bit of money.
Okay.
Where should you put it?
Well, I don't think you should invest in individual stocks when you start, for sure, because there's a lot of work that goes into looking at individual stocks, or there should be. You can't just do it on a gut instinct. You've got to get rid of the emotional thing. It's got to be a logical step. So index funds are the way to go. Now, if you want to diversify, the S&P 500 is 503 companies currently. That's pretty diversified. So, and you're looking to earn somewhere, hopefully, around 8 to 10% per annum.
Yeah.
You can then diversify a little bit more. So I have about 60, 70% roughly in S&P 500. Then I have an all market fund. Now that's everyone in America, all the businesses within the whole market. Okay. So that's about 20%. And then another 10, 15% will be in an emerging market. So again, still an index fund, but it's an emerging markets fund. So that'll be countries like China, India, places like that, because, you know, they might not go bang and grow, but I don't want to not be part of that if it happens. And to be fair, it's performing quite well at the moment. So that's quite a diversified portfolio just within index funds. Then I personally do a little bit of individual stocks, but do a lot of research before I do. And I also do a little bit of crypto as well.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that.
Well, it's quite exciting. It's quite sexy, bit of fun. It's done quite well.
Yeah.
Can't grumble.
I would have thought you would have been more against the crypto.
I'm not against crypto. I mean, I'm very for technology. I'm very for future thinking and moving forward. Yeah. I don't invest in meme coins. I have done, but not really interested in them. It's a bit like day stock trading. You know, you know when to get out of those. Look, it's still a substantial amount of money, but it's only about 5% of my portfolio.
Yeah.
So this is the thing I think people don't really understand. Now, if I lost all of that 5%, it's 5% of my portfolio worth.
Yeah.
I can take that. It would sting. I wouldn't like it, but I can take it. But if you put 100% in or 50% in of your portfolio into something that can disappear, that's not so good.
Yeah.
So just be sensible. Remember, it's all about the safety net. Keep that safety net ticking away in the background.
Yeah. Where do you see the future of entrepreneurship in the next 5 to 10 years?
Hopefully being celebrated in the UK rather than looked down upon, to be perfectly honest. I mean, America has always looked at entrepreneurs as being beacons of hope.
Yeah.
It's quite weird as well, because most entrepreneurs are looked at as weirdos at school, for whatever reason, and then celebrated once they make it, So I think hopefully celebrated more. I think things like Dragon's Den are helping, which is Shark Tank in the States. I think that helps the entrepreneur spirit, because they can see the entrepreneur trying with their idea, trying to get capital, trying to get it there, and then they see the results in the shops. I mean, we had a case very recently with Perfect Ted, which are a matcha-based product. I don't know if you've seen those, which is obviously an energy drink without the caffeine. And we're pretty good friends with them. We went to their launch. They were on Dragon's Den. We even went to the airing of Dragon's Den in a big cinema in London because they invited us to them, and we podcasted with them, and they're doing very, very well. So if you get the right product and be driven as an entrepreneur, that's great. The thing I don't believe you can be is taught to be an entrepreneur.
You got to have it in you.
I think you have to have it in you. You can learn a lot along the way, but there's a certain element. And that's why not everyone should start a business. And that's why we don't say to everyone, you should start a business to become wealthy. Just manage your finances. That's the easiest way for you to be able to become wealthy. It might be that you're an entrepreneur and you can run a business. Fantastic. Let's help you along the way. Superb. But it doesn't suit everyone. And that's a mistake to think it does.
I think the same thing about being an influencer or building a personal brand. Like a lot of people like the idea of that, but I don't think some people are cut out for it or can deal with being in the spotlight like that.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between influencer and personal brand, because I think you can build a personal brand that helps you in lots and lots and lots of ways that are way pre-influencing.
Yeah.
So, I think everyone should really look after their personal brand. I'm quite adamant on that. Really look after it, because this is the future. Everything's gonna be visible. So just look after what you're doing as a personal brand, and it's a good way of getting yourself out there as well. Yeah. I mean, when you go for a job, an employer is going to look at your personal brand, and if your personal brand is just a few posts on Facebook telling someone to whatever, that's what they're going to see, and then you're going, I don't know why I didn't get that job.
Yeah, it's like you're the new and improved CV.
Yeah,
like they're gonna.
Or the new and worsened CV, it depends how you're looking after it.
Yeah. Like the way I kind of decide if I'm going to collaborate or do business with somebody is I'll go to their Instagram. What kind of stuff are they posting?
Yeah.
What's their engagement? What's their following? Have they also got other platforms which are popping off? Like it's
because that's going to reflect on you at the end of the day if you employ someone. So I'm sure they'll bring out a law at some point. You can't take that into account, but we'll see, won't we?
Yeah. What else have you got planned for the rest of this year and the future?
Well, as I say, I would really like to knuckle down to being helping more people again, because when we first started, we could physically help so much more on a one-to-one basis. So if I can get that up and running where I can help more, filter through a little bit more, that's really important. A lot more traveling.
Yeah.
Because we've got lots of people in lots of countries that would like to do meetups and that sort of thing. And again, that's getting back to that one-to-one, isn't it? Where, they can come along, we can, give them a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance, even if it's just a rallying call. Sometimes you need that, don't you? When you're out there and you're young and you're trying to go forward, someone to say, you have got this.
Yeah.
If I went back to myself at times, I could have done with that. Mate, you've got this. Don't worry about what they're saying. Do your thing. Do what you're doing, because you're different. You'll end up with a different result.
Yeah.
If you're the same, you're going to end up with the same result everyone else gets. And generally speaking, that's not actually what you want. You're trying to break out of that. So you got to be a bit different.
Exactly. You remind me a lot of Simon Squibb.
Oh, dear, he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, in terms of like what you're doing, the message you're spreading, and you're just out there to help as many people as possible.
Well, you can only try. I mean, Simon is a good friend. He's got a very good message. He believes everyone should just quit their job and start a business of their own, which, as I say, we've just spoken about. Not everyone is suited to starting a business. Some people will work for other people and do very, very well. And as long as they're investing on the side, they are going to have a great life. They're going to live their passions and everything. So I think there's more than one way to live in the life that Simon puts over that you get by only starting a business. But he's got a good message out there, that's for sure.
Yeah. I see you've got your notepad there. Have you got any questions for me?
Well, do you know what? I've had a couple of comments on Facebook. Sorry, not Facebook, on Instagram and various things, and on my DMs recently. They're saying, Mark, you're getting a bit porky, son. Can't be having that. The old shirt's starting to go. So I've either got to go and find a new tailor, which I'm not sure if you'll be able to give me a number for.
But actually, I do have a number for it.
But I think the better option is, so I can still fit into my normal clothing, is maybe you should sort out a fitness program for me. I'm 57 years old. Don't want to wear the bones out too much. So what do you reckon I should be doing?
Well, I would first of all ask what it is that you're doing at the moment.
I play golf regularly as I can.
Okay.
And I do walk. I don't buggy. And I prefer to walk. I ski, love skiing.
Yeah.
Which is fairly energetic, and I can ski all day, no problem at all, and reasonably fast. Sun's slightly quicker now. Slightly. I have to admit it because it's facts. And it's so annoying. It really eats me up inside, to be fair. But
what's going to happen when he starts making more money than you?
Well, that won't be too long the way he's going. And that's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can celebrate those things.
Yeah.
That's great. That means I've done a good job.
Exactly.
So I'll take all the credit.
Yeah.
So I can ski a full day. I would say I'm relatively fit. Just got that later middle-age spread. It's just starting to occur. So
I would say probably start doing some form of resistance training. Doesn't have to be a lot. It could even be twice a week. Maybe 3 times a week. When you're staying at these hotels, when you're traveling, most of these places will have a gym somewhere on one floor. You've also got your gym at home.
Yeah, all the equipment's nice, shiny and new and not used.
Yeah. So very simple training split, full body sessions 3 times a week, doing predominantly compound movements. And then it would just be a matter of, you don't have to do any ridiculous cardio or anything like that. You don't need to. I think if you're doing the resistance training, tweaking your diet. So
the diet is fairly good. I have to be honest. But I probably probably overeat than that. That's the problem. But the contents of the diet is fairly good. But you hit on protein now. My wife's very on that at the moment. So it's a couple of eggs every morning, for example.
You probably need more than that, though.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, as you get older, the protein requirements get higher as well.
Okay.
So a general rule of thumb, 1 gram per pound of body weight, or around like 1.8 grams per kilogram.
Okay.
So you don't accidentally eat that amount of protein. So you would there needs to be some degree of planning, probably ideally eating 3 to 4 times per day, decent source of protein in each meal. And then, like you said, it's not, just don't overeat. A lot of what the Japanese people do, and you don't see any fat Japanese people, is they eat until they're around 70 to 80% full. Okay, so they eat enough, but not too much, and then obviously avoiding desserts, avoiding junk food.
And I'm avoiding the sugars for sure, and the desserts, because my age, you're looking at the possibilities of diabetes and things like that, which you really don't want to go down that road. So I'm already on the anti-sugars. So I've cut out all the Cokes and all that sort of stuff as well. So mostly water. Coffee, I do like a coffee, I do like a tea, but mostly water.
That's fine. So doing that, not overeating, and then you don't necessarily have to track, but when you do, I always recommend some people track at least once in their life so they can understand the numbers.
Yeah.
So like if you look at a plate of food, okay, how many grams of protein is there, the carbs, the fats, total calorie intake, and then you start to understand, oh, maybe, I've been overeating, or I've been overdoing the fats or underdoing the protein. Most people usually underdo the protein. And then a very underrated form of cardio, or just a method of burning calories, is just walking. So you probably do decent amount of walking.
Yeah, reasonable. Yeah.
It would just be a case, again, once, twice, 3 times a week, going on the treadmill. You probably have a treadmill at home. Put it on an incline, 11.
It was harder then, though, isn't it?
It needs to be harder. Can't be holding on to the handles. and then do that for 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, then if you watch something on your phone at the same time, the time goes by pretty fast. And literally just those little tweaks, you'll be burning more calories on a daily, weekly basis. Just pulling back the amount of food that you eat, and then that'll sort it out.
Okay, so I've got to make the sort of commitment to my fitness that you've got to make to your finances.
Exactly. Yes, my portfolio,
full
my
commitment.
Saving. Yeah. It's a deal.
There you go. Made on air. We can't go back on that.
Awesome. I appreciate your time and for coming on. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Mark Tilbury. Basically, type that into anything and you will find me. That's it, really, isn't it? Just Mark Tilbury on YouTube's the best way, because there are lots of free lessons on there. It's all free. Just look it up, and I'm hoping it'll help you along your way. You know, life is a journey, not a destination. Enjoy the whole trip, and it's a long one. And it's a great one if you let it be.
Wise words. Thanks very much.